Well, hello. Uh, we had technical issues with live stream at our regular Fiddle Club workshop this month, and so I'm doing a restream today um, and recreating the workshop. So hopefully, those of you who wanted to enjoy the workshop still get a chance to get some live play along and instruction. So welcome to Potomac Valley Scottish Fiddle Club May 2025 workshop. Our theme this month is music of Shetland. And we return to Shetland time and again. Over the years, we've had at least a dozen workshops featuring Shetland music. Our most recent ones were a couple of years ago featuring the music of Willie Hunter, and a little bit before that featuring compositions of Ronnie Cooper, 20th century Shetland composers. But that made me think, well, this time I should probably look more into traditional Shetland fiddle tunes. And so that's what I've got here. So I'm going to start off with a tune by ear that comes from Tom Anderson. And you should know a little bit about Tom Anderson. We'll return back to him. Tom Anderson was born in 1910, and throughout his long lifetime in the 20th century, he did more than almost anyone else to revive and maintain Shetland fiddling. He encouraged living fiddlers to share their music, wrote it down, published a number of books of both traditional tunes and his own music and the compositions of other Shetland musicians. He put a big emphasis on teaching young people and started a Shetland Young Heritage music group. And a number of the members of Shetland Young Heritage came to visit Fiddle Club many, many years ago, more than 30 years ago, and shared their music with us. So we've long had an interest in Shetland fiddle music. Tom Anderson was also a radio host, and it was in a great position to give some publicity to Shetland fiddle music. One of his most influential books is this one, Hand Me Doon to Fiddle. It's got fiddle tunes in it, along with, for every tune, little story. It's just like a transcription of Tom's own Shetland dialect. And so it's got it written out exactly as he spoke. So the tune I'm going to teach you first today is the Hamnavo polka. And it's a tune that Tom Anderson learned from his grandfather. So first of all, I'll show you some pictures here from Hamnavo in Shetland. And by the way, the word vo in Shetland is the equivalent of the Norwegian word fjord. So it's an inlet. And here's a map of Shetland, which is island group north of Scotland. It's well on the way to Norway, and in fact was part of Norway, I think, until the 1200s, when it became part of Scotland as it passed via dowry of a Norwegian princess who married into the Scottish royal family. Anyway, on this map of Shetland, this is where Hamnavo is. So Tom's dialect on this. Oh, by the way, this Hand Me Doon to Fiddle tune book is illustrated by Shetland school children. So there's the picture of people dancing that goes with the Hamnavo polka. And it says, in Tom's dialect, this is one of the first tunes I learned from my grandfather. He never kent the name of it, but I call it the Hamnavo polka because that's where he bed. That's where he lived. I never heard it anyway else outside of Eshenes. So Eshenes is this area of Shetland right near Hamnavo. And I guess that's where Tom Anderson and his family came from. So here is the Hamnavo polka. Let me play it for you. make sure my fingers are a little more visible in the video. Let's try that. Boy, it's so confusing. Let's try that. Did that work? No, I'm going to move it the other way. It's like this mirror image thing. There we go. It's going to work a little better. All right. There we go. So Hamnavo polka is in the key of G. Now, you may have noticed this is not, the polka in the sort of quick step kind of sense. We have Scottish polkas such as J.B. Milne, that are more at this tempo. And then here we have this Hamnavo polka. And so the answer is there's actually more than one type of polka that goes on in the world. And that J.B. Milne type of polka, the faster one, it's, step, close, step, hop, step, close, step, hop. And it's got this turning action going as the people dance in couples around the room. This Hamnavo polka is what I would think is more of a pattern polka, where they might do something like heel, toe, step together, step, hop, heel, toe, step together. That kind of patterned footwork polka is the kind of thing that would go with this speed of dance tune. All right, it's in the key of G. And the first thing it does is start on the note G and go down the G scale. And then from there, scale work. Again, we're starting on the note A this time, up and down the scale. And then to complete the second bar, arpeggio notes in the key of G. The G chord is made out of G, B, and D. So those are the notes that make up the G arpeggio. We're going to use them. We go to that D and come down via the arpeggio notes. D, B, G. So the second bar of music in Hamnavo polka. So the first two bars put together. And again. All right, the next part, bar 3, is another scale. We're starting on the note E this time and coming right down the scale. We're still in the key of G, so the C is a C natural. Just like that, right down the scale. And then bar 4 is again scale work. That's starting on the note A, up and down the scale. And then arpeggio work, this time G arpeggio notes. Those notes are notes of the D chord, D, F sharp, A, D. So in this case, we just had the scale. It leads us to an F sharp, and we play a snap to the A note. And wind up on D. So bar 4 put together is. And with bar 3, that 2-bar segment is. Let's play that again. good. All right, so I will put together the 4-bar phrase at this stage. And let me give you that 4-bar phrase. So it really has a regular pattern, that scale with quarter notes, scale passage, arpeggio passage, new scale quarter notes, scale passage, arpeggio passage. So really parallel structural aspects. Here we go. All right. That is the first 4 bars. The next 4 bars, there you go, the same way to start. And the ending is different. So here's the ending. It's special. It's a snap, but it's in this slow polka time. So it's not at all a hard snap. It's E to G, and then D to G. And then the very end, G, F sharp, G, wraps up the phrase. So the end of phrase. Again. And now putting together the 4 bars, second half of the A part. Remember, it started the same way as the first half did, with the scale down from the note G. And again. So the entire A part is those 2 4-bar phrases put together. The G scale start, just as we did. Arpeggio part. The E scale. Scale part. Snap. Arpeggio. And then repeat. And then the snaps to wrap it up. So here's the whole 8 bars. This part repeats, and in the music that I originally issued, I forgot to put the repeat signs in, but the corrected version that I have sent to Pete for posting at the website has the corrections and will have the repeats in it. So I will play the entire A part again. With a repeat. I'm so tempted to go right on to the next part because it's fun, and this tune just has a delightful feel to it. So the B part also starts with a scale that doesn't quite go the same way as before. You don't get 4 quarter notes of the scale, but you're going to start on a high G this time, go down 3 notes, and then we're adding scale to it, up and down the scale, just like that. The next thing that happens is, again, quarter notes and then similar rhythm scale passage. A D note and a B note. And then scale. All right, so we're now on to the third bar. Third bar, same basic rhythm pattern of quarter notes and then scale thing. 2 G's in a row. And then it climbs the scale. And the end of phrase is 3 notes. Ending on F sharp, not resolved. Okay, so the 4 bars of the B part so far: quarter notes, climb and up and down scale, quarter notes, up and down scale, more quarter notes, up and down scale, and then the unresolved ending of 3 notes. And again, same thing. Again. All right, now the end of the tune. We've got the same thing all the way through, except the last 3 notes resolve. So it's the same business. All the same. Ending. G, F sharp, G, and that resolves the phrase. So let's put that end of phrase together, last 4 bars of the tune. Unresolved. And that's the whole thing. So now let's play this 8 bars of the B part through a few times. In the course of the normal tune, it gets played twice. All right, I'd like to put the whole tune together. So you don't remember. I mean, I hope you haven't forgotten how it started, right? That's right. Quarter notes going down. And then a scale and arpeggio passage. Another scale. And arpeggio. Repeats exactly. Slow snaps. The whole thing repeats. The B part. Unresolved. Exactly the same. And resolves this time. Repeat. From the top. well, I'm sure you could go just a little bit faster with that polka. The Hamnavo polka. It was a tune that Tom Anderson learned from his grandfather. One of the first tunes he learned from his grandfather when he was a boy. And so it's from Hamnavo, Shetland, which is part of the northwest part of the island, the main island of the Shetlands, which is called mainland. And that is a polka is a sort of a pattern polka, slow-ish, heel toe, step type of pattern of footwork. It's really similar in tempo to a schottisch, and at the Fiddle Club meeting, we're discussing how the schottisch is kind of an interesting phenomenon in Scottish music. The name schottisch, of course, is like a Germanic or Scandinavian word for Scottish. And the thinking is that somebody from Scandinavia or Germanic speaking world heard strathspeys with their dots and snaps and said, "Oh, that's good music." And they took those tunes back home, and when asked what they were, they said, "Oh, it's schottisch, right? It's a Scottish tune." And that spawned this dance form that's very widespread in Scandinavia and elsewhere, called a schottisch. And that years later, like a century later, it's hard to say exactly how much later, but this schottisch got, the Scandinavian version got heard by somebody from Scotland, and they said, "Oh wow, that's a really cool tune. What do you call it?" And they said, "It is a schottisch," which the Scot then took back to Scotland, and when asked, "What's that?" they said, "Oh, it's a Scottish," because that's what they thought they heard the Scandinavians saying. And so it kind of got re-imported as a special variety of dance tune in Scotland, danced somewhat similarly with its own Scottish twist, but otherwise similarly to how it's danced in Scandinavia. Now, interestingly enough, the schottisches spread all over the place. There are American ones, there are Latin American ones. There's a form of schottisch danced in Mexico, in Brazil, in Argentina. When I was looking into schottisches and doing my research on this, I watched videos of places, people dancing them in all those places. And while each place has its own cultural twist on the schottisch, the basic premise is from this strathspey root from Scotland. So let's give you another tune. And before I give you that tune, I want to just introduce you to one of the concepts that's very prevalent in Shetland reel playing. And it's what Tom Anderson goes on in several of his descriptions. He talks about how to play Shetland music properly. You need to get an understanding of the concept of one down and three up. This is referring to bowing, one down bow and three up bows. And in other words, that you get this rhythm of and the I don't know if you probably can't see my foot tapping, but maybe you can hear it through the microphone. But it comes in the middle of that up bow, because that up bow is 1/8 note, downbeat, and then another 1/8 note, and then the offbeat is the up, the down. So there I was doing the chord changes on the beat. And you can see that now that I've let you in on that secret, the chord changes on the beat, the down bow is on the offbeat, and you start by doing 2 up. Shetland shuffle bowing, or the one doon and tree up, as Tom Anderson would call it. And I've been to some workshops, with a number of Shetland fiddle people, including Allie Bain. I've learned from some pretty good musicians, and I learned that shuffle and the one down, three up. And I was like, okay, I got it. I'm all set for Shetland fiddle music. Well, many years ago in Fiddle Club, we had Katrina McDonald, who was one of Tom Anderson's star pupils. And she came and gave us a workshop, and she very quickly let us know that one down and three up is not the whole story. It's definitely a key part of it, but it's much more complicated than just, oh, you learn the one down, three up, now you're good. Just stuff it in everywhere. No, the pieces are a little more complex than that. So you will see three in an up bow quite frequently. It isn't always exactly placed as I did for that shuffle, although that kind of shuffle bowing is frequently used as an accompaniment, because back in the old days they didn't have pianos in the places where they were dancing. They'd often be dancing in someone's kitchen, and the music was provided by one or two fiddlers, and so the fiddlers had to be their own rhythm section. So they'd take turns with one playing melody and the other doing an accompanying part. They're very much into what they call ringing strings in Shetland, where they play any open string that chords along with the melody. And so it's one reason why quite a few Shetland reels of the traditional style are in the key of D, because it gives you lots of good ring along. And to get to maximum ring along, you have to be in tune, right? Let's straighten that out. So all that preamble is to tell you that when you do encounter a marking of a slur of three notes, particularly if it starts on an upbeat, but even when it doesn't, it's probably a signal that you should play the three of them in an up bow, and the note that follows that three notes in a slur down bow. So there I'm trying to make it clear that there are 3/8 notes in that up bow. Okay, so having said that, quite a few Shetland tunes start with an up bow because that's how you get into the pattern. So this tune is called De Fashion of the Delting Lasses, and it's another one that's also in Tom Anderson's Hand Me Doon Fiddle book. And let's see what Tom has to say. Oh gosh, let's see there. I find the right. Oh, I even marked it. Right. The Fashion of the Delting Lasses. So here's the picture that, like I said, school children drew to go with this. And it said, oh, here's what Tom has to say. Some folk say it was ta'en from a Scottish tune called The Duke of Perth. Okay, so it's taken from a Scottish tune called Duke of Perth, which, by the way, this is the Duke of Perth. The tune in question, okay, it has some resemblance to that contour. You're probably not going to find a whole lot of things reminding you of Duke of Perth in it, unless you're used to several different variants of Duke of Perth. Okay, so he says it's maybe related to Duke of Perth. Then he says, what way he came to Shetland, we never kent. But the fiddlers found out could be tuned until a Shetland, could be turned until a Shetland reel, and so they did, and for that. They said that at Delting, the lasses were awful fine dancers, and it became the fashion to dance like them. Adrian said that they were awful fashy, and maybe there's a bit of aftick in the name of him. So in other words, the Delting lasses were famous for being great dancers, so maybe that's why this tune is named that, or they were also fussy in their ways. So maybe it's a bit of saying a little talk about that. Sometimes when I play him, it reminds me of what the old folk told me about the bad day in 1900 when many delting men were lost at the fishing, and who the lasses stood at the doors of the houses, I lipping in to see the boats coming sailing in through the bow. After that, nobody in that district had the heart to dance on any way, almost at what was left moved on, and no houses stand. No other houses stand empty. So, in other words, in 1900 there was a big fishing disaster. A lot of Shetland's economy in those times was based on fishing, and so when the fishing fleet was out, if there was a big storm and a lot of boats were lost, it meant a huge part of the community was lost. So perhaps that has something to do with why this picture is colored so dark. If the child knew about that story. All right, let me play you The Fashion of the Delting Lasses. It is a great dance tune. Sorry, the end of it. Okay, so there we go. The Fashion of the Delting Lasses. So I'll try to teach it with you with the bowings. If you're not playing a fiddle and you don't have bowings, what we're really talking about is emphasis. So whether the notes are connected smoothly or with more punctuation, and which ones get a little bit of a punch or an accent to them. So pay attention to that, whether or not you follow the bowing. Some of the bowings are marked in the music. And like I said, if you see a slur, it's frequently an up bow, because that's kind of the Shetland take. And they're not necessarily marking every slur you would do, but certainly some highly suggested slurs. And so by the way, there are quite a few fiddle traditions that make use of this kind of backbeat and three in a bow slurring. American old time music does it. Any type of fiddle style that has a backbeat makes use of similar bowings. But a lot of the American old time fiddle tradition, they do it the other way around. They don't do 1 down, 3 up. They do 1 up, 3 down. I know this because my friend Ken Kalodner has tried to get me to play a lot more old time music over the years. And when I do my bowings, which I take from my knowledge of Shetland fiddling, and apply them to the old time tunes, I always end up going the opposite bow direction from Ken. And we just live with that. We do get the same feel though. So the Shetland way, up bow slurs, down bow punch. So this tune starts out with D arpeggio notes. Let's find those notes. The D, F sharp, A, D. And the first bar of music is entirely those notes. Don't play any G's, any C's, no B notes. That's right. They're just not there. All right. I'm going to give you the next bar of music. This one's a little bit more scalar, but it's, again, not really direct scales. It's like jumping a note at a time. Right, so it's working with sort of this stair hopping scale where you jump over a step. And sort of landing on dum bum bum is kind of another typical Shetland reel thing. They often end the phrase with a quarter note rather than just continuing on through with eighth notes. The third bar of this tune is exactly the same as the first. And I'm doing an up bow 2-note slur. And the end of phrase is a variant on bar 2. Slightly rearranged at the end. It starts the same way, but it goes so that it can resolve G, F sharp, and lands on the D note. Okay, so that is the end of phrase. I want to put the 4 bars together. So it's arpeggio, and then the stair-steppy scale thing ending unresolved, and then the arpeggio bit, and then the stair steps ending resolved. Okay, I'm going to put it all together. All right, I know this is on video, so I hope you have a chance to go back and go through that as much as you need to get the pieces. I'm going to move on to the second part of the tune. We're moving up into the higher octave at this point. We just ended with the down bow, so of course the next note is going to be up. And that's so typical of these Shetland reels to start the phrase up. That's the first bar. Again, it's kind of a stair-step scale thing. The next bar notice I have a slur in there. And the previous bar also ended up bow, so it's in fact a 3 and a bow slur. Let me connect the two pieces together. Okay, so that there we got our 3 up and 1 down. That was just demoed right there before your very eyes. Let me move back to the second bar so that we can complete the bar. We were going up because we had going. It ends on C sharp because we're not resolving. We're leading into the next note, which is D. So I'm giving you the note at the very end of the first bar so that we can do the 3 up. So connecting it to the first bar again, up bow. And you can hear how the placement of the down bows definitely gives you a backbeat. Okay. One more practice on that. Now you can see I'm down bow. I'm going to play the same bar of music. It's the same as bar 1 of the B part, but the bowing's different. I started the first time up bow. Well, this time I ended up needing to play it down bow. So I play it down bow. I slur the next two. And that puts me back in the same place by the end of the bar. And then we need an ending. And that's up bow because once again, it's part of a 3 in a bow. Let me connect the 2 bars so you can see how that works. All right, so now we have a 4-bar phrase of the B part. So here we go. Let's do it again. Okay, so that's the first half of the B part. Second half of the A part, second half of the B part is exactly the same except for one note. It's one note that's already been mentioned in the chat. This note is significant because the B part second time through is exactly the same except for this one note. So here's the second time through the B. We're going to be starting up bow just like before. Difference. It's right there. It's in the second 2-bar phrase. That's what it is the first time through. When it comes around again in the second 4 bars, it's A. So and the last time all the difference. It wraps up the tune. It's only one note different. Otherwise, the B part is a direct repeat. So let's play the entire B part now and put this whole thing together. Not too fast. I do want to do that again, but I'd like to put it together with the A part so that we don't forget how this tune started. It started with that Duke of Perth-like figure of arpeggios with stair-steppy scales. Up bow, New note. And that's the tune. Now, as I play it through, I can add those ringing strings along. If I happen to play, well, that doesn't hurt the tune. In fact, it makes it sound more like it's in the traditional Shetland style because those are ring along strings. Okay, here we go. And that is The Fashion of the Delting Lasses. And I don't think I showed you on the Shetland map where Delting is, but that's Delting. This is mainland. Yeah, right. Can't do this mirror image thing. Boy, I'd be an awful weather map person on TV. Okay, so there's the mainland of Shetland, right? It has a couple of arms. Delting is in this area. There's a bow or inlet right up to it. Okay, so let's move on and do another tune. And this one is from a different source book. There are several different source books. Actually, quite a good number of them. One of my favorites is this one called The Merry Dancers, published by the Shetland Folk Society. And you can see that Tom Anderson was involved in this book as well. And so again, it's got tunes with a little bit of a story behind them. So taste the green, right? It's the name of the tune. And it says that there's a version of this tune from the island of Yell. Okay, we have mainland Shetland, right? That's Yell, the island of Yell. Some of the other islands, Unst, Fetlar, Walsey, the Outskerries, Papastor, Muckle Burra, Bresse. There's all kinds of other islands in Shetland besides mainland Shetland, which of course is an island off of Scotland mainland, which is itself an island off of the mainland of Europe. So, right. Anyway, Taste the Green. The story behind this is that it celebrates the return of spring when the first green grass becomes available for the sheep and the Shetland ponies to eat. All right, let me play Taste the Green for you. All right, I will just make note that the Merry Dancers has certain bowings marked in, but they're not always marked. Not quite as thoroughly as they are in Hand Me Doon to Fiddle. All right, let's learn this tune. Pick up note of B. All right, and then the next measure has burl, a burl on an F sharp. So you have a choice. If you're playing a bowed instrument like I am, you have an up bow here. And ordinarily after burl, you slur. If you do slur here, it's crossing a string. So it's not really a proper slur. If I did just slur it smoothly, I'd hit a string in between. So I'm doing this little magic trick where I kind of stop moving this direction while I rotate that direction. Okay, so we had the first bar. Sorry. Second bar. So let's do that again. And you can slur or not slur. If you start any bar up bow, that's actually a very Shetlandy thing to do, and you could slur the first two notes in that bar if you wish. So now we're at bar 3. It's a variant of the first bar. Remember, the first bar is, and this third bar, it just adds an F sharp in there. So if you land on that up bow, you would slur the pair. If you happen to land on it down bow, just play it. anytime you felt like it, you could add a 3 and a bow across the beat if you wish. All right, so, and then the end of phrase. So putting the A part together of Taste the Green. Here's the second part. It's those good old arpeggio notes of D, F sharp, and A. Our friends in Shetland fiddling. Yes. And here I am up bow. So of course I'm going to slur a pair. The third bar is a variant. Again, all arpeggio notes. And the last bar. All right, so the B part. One more time. Okay, I'd like to go back to the Taste the Green A part and put them all together. that is Taste the Green. So in Shetland, the winters can be quite severe and stormy. It's in the North Atlantic, and it's pretty exposed. The wind blows all the way across the entire ocean without much of anything breaking it up. So by the time it hits Shetland, it can be going pretty full force if it's stormy. And that would mean high waves, high winds. And in fact, most of Shetland does not have trees that grow any taller than whatever building or hillside that they happen to be behind. So the wind just blows with such force that they can't stay upright beyond that shelter. And I showed you pictures of Hamnavo before. And let me see if I can, oh yeah, okay. So this is a picture of delting. We talked about the fashion of the delting lasses. And then let's see, do I have one for Taste the Green? I don't think I have a picture of no picture of Yell, but here's a picture of Escheness, which I mentioned as being near Hamnavo, where Tom Anderson was from, or his family anyway. And another picture of Escheness. So, so far I haven't seen the deep forests of Shetland in any of those pictures, have you? No, because there aren't any. Right. So in the springtime, the sheep have been kept in the barns, a shelter, and they've been feeding off of hay. And so this business of being able to go out and feed on the green grass is pretty significant, and it vastly improves their health because it's just like eating your fresh vegetables. All right, well, let's go now to tunes from sheet music. There are 4 pages of sheet music this time. Pages book 32, and there we go, get oriented. Pages 31 through 34. And they're downloadable at the Potomac Valley Scottish Fiddle Club website. And I sent in corrections to Pete. I'm not sure if he's posted the corrected versions yet. There are always a few little things. Nothing big. There weren't any wrong notes this time, but there were a few formatting things and missing repeats. Plus, there's this whole question of like, okay, how many of those slurs am I going to mark in versus you work on them and figure them out. All right, on page 31, there's a tune called Wandy a Little, and it's both in Hand Me Doon to Fiddle and in The Merry Dancers. In The Merry Dancers, it says that it's from a fiddler named Arthur Peterson, who's from Hilswick. I'm not sure how they say that. It's spelled Hillswick, but I'm pretty sure they don't say it exactly like that. And I do have a picture. Here's a picture of that part of Shetland where this tune is from. So this is a funny story because I actually had an experience just like this. So here's what Tom says, and then I'll translate and elaborate on it. He says, the tune is called The Burn o' Wandy a Little. So a burn is just a Scotch word for a stream, right? Stream or a creek. The burn o' Wandy a Little. The scene is from Hilswick. Oh, there we go. So now we know how they say it in Shetland. Hilswick. Hilswick, and is called after a burn. It ran doon fae packing into the sea. Nowadays, it's nothing but a stripe. But they said a while ago it was a braw big burn, and they could hear the hush of the water running down with a fine still night. You can hear the sound of the burn when the fiddle rings out above the lower strings in the first half of it. So, right, this is named after this stream near Hilswick, and nowadays this isn't much of a stream. It's just like this little trickle, right? But they say that some time ago it was a big strong stream, and you could hear the rush of the water running down on a fine, still night. And he says you can hear the sound of the stream when the fiddle rings out in the lower strings when you play, especially the first half. Well, so my story is that there's this creek near where I used to live in Maryland called Wildcat Creek, and it sounds very exciting. There's this Wildcat Creek, and I remember it from when I was a kid, and I was like, yeah, there's this big stream rushing through the woods and through the hills, and yeah, it's great. And so I suggested this as a name of a tune for a piece that my friend Larry Unger composed, and he's like, yeah, that's a great name, and he named it Wildcat Creek. And then sometime later, we happened to be like driving through the area, and I said, oh, we could see Wildcat Creek. You want to see it? And he says, sure, I want to see it. So we went by, and of course it was like a hot day in August, and it had been dry all summer, and Wildcat Creek was like trickle. And he's like, I named a tune after that little trickle. So same story here with Wayne D. Little. At some point, probably right after big rain, it's this gushing burn that rushes down the hillside with great style. But on a hot summer day, it's just like, eh. Okay, so let me play the tune for you. Right. Now I can move all those things and put, right. One of these days I'll actually play it the right way. Let me try one more time. Okay, I think I succeeded that time. All right, let's try it slower a couple times through and work our way up. One thing before I continue on, I just want to say that whenever you get a 3 slurred on the sheet music, just think that, okay, that's probably going to be an up bow, and arrange your bowing around that idea. All right, so sometimes it means you need to slur something or unslur something to make that work. Okay, again. most of the notes and most of the bowing most of the time. And you're welcome to play around a bit with the bowings. The things as marked in confused me somewhat, and so I was experimenting with different bowings to see if anything worked better, and some of them did, and but I'm just going with as marked in Hand Me Doon to Fiddle as the basis. All right, next tune on the page, Fashion of the Dilting Lasses, we already learned, so we're going to go to the third tune, The Black Hat. And before you start thinking about, okay, there's the guy in the black hat and the guy in the white hat, and one of them's a bad guy and one of them's a good, no, that's not what this is about at all. So it's again from the playing of Arthur Peterson from, but it says the tune itself is from the Tingwall area. Let's see if I got a picture of Tingwall. Tingwall is just outside the main city of Lerwick. And oh yeah, right. No pictures from Tingwall. Let me just show you approximately where it is on our map. So this bay here on the mainland of Shetland, the main city there is Lerwick, the largest city in Shetland. And just outside of it is Tingwall. And so the story is that this tune was named for the fiddler who played it. He always wore a black hat when he played the fiddle. Therefore, the tune called The Black Hat. Let me play it for you. So about the bowings, it's the end of every phrase, and it's a one down on the downbeat for a change, and then three in the up bow, and then the final note down bow. So there are quite a few like that. A lot of the bars start with a double note. So for those, there's really a pattern there where you're playing them separated and down, up, down. And then you play slur a pair, an up bow slur on that beat, right? So that's kind of the pattern that you're looking to find and repeat as much as it fits. Let's play The Black Hat slowly and then build up some speed. right, so that's the black hat. Okay, something a little different that is not a reel in the key of D. How about it? This is a hornpipe, or you can think of it as that same kind of polka, slow stepping polka that we saw before with the Hamnavoe polka. This is a tune by Tom Anderson, and it's called De Sixerine, and there's multiple stories about it. Let me see if I can find the ones that I had marked this. Right, so in the Merry Dancers, it just said that Tom composed it in the late 1940s, and he was singing a boat. A sixerine is a six-oared open boat at the beach at Hilsik. We talked about where Hilsik was before. It's in that northwest corner of Shetland. Tom Anderson taught for many years at the School of Scottish Studies in Stirling, which had probably still has a fiddle program that you can go in the summers for summer school and learn from really great Scottish teachers. Anyway, Alistair Hardy, whose name is on this book, Alistair Hardy, The Caledonian Companion. Alistair Hardy was the director of that event for many, many years, and Tom Anderson was a regular teacher there. And what he says, Alistair Hardy, who arranged this book, putting Tom's tune in, this is original composition of Tom Anderson, a slow reel or a hornpipe. Tom called a lot of his tunes slow reels. You know, he just meant it wasn't that traditional Shetland reel style of tune. It doesn't necessarily fit the category of slow reel as we understand it. We have featured slow reels in a workshop before in Fiddle Club in Book 8. But it's not exactly a typical hornpipe. It's not really a polka, not really a schottisch. This one has more hornpipe characteristics than some of the others because it keeps landing on dum, bum, bum at the end of every 4-bar phrase. So it says, Tom composed this tune in 1947, and he says, a sixerine is a Shetland 6-oared open boat. It's shaped a little bit like a Norse galley, in other words, Viking ship, right? Only probably without the dragon on the head, yeah. And he composed it in 1947 while watching this vessel cross the bay, and since we know from the other book, it was Hilsik Bay, which I did show you the picture of. But let's get that Hilsik picture back so that you can see crossing this bay at this beach is where Tom was when he saw the sixerine. So here's how the sixerine goes. Let's play that. So somebody asked in the live workshop whether it was a strathspey. I don't really think so, because the strathspey doesn't have that dum bum bum ending. That's just not very unstrathspey like. And yet it does have snaps, but the snaps aren't tight snaps, so maybe a little schottisch like. Keeps going back to that dum bum bum, and Alistair Hardy did recognize it as a hornpipe, so and he knew what he was talking about. So I'm gonna go with hornpipe, but it is one of those tunes that doesn't quite fit standard molds. Tom Anderson wrote a lot of tunes. There are quite a few of them in this book, Ringing Strings, and quite a few more in this other book, which has such a Scottish title. Geese and A. To even understand that, you need to know the language, right? It means give us an A. So, it's for tuning the fiddle. Oh, and that's a picture of Tom Anderson. And it looks like a couple of trolls, trowies, as they call them in Shetland. All right. So, let's play De Sixerine together. So there's De Sixerine. And there are a bunch of Tom Anderson tunes found throughout the Fiddle Club books. You can look up The Road to Hoole, The Old Resting Chair, De Slocket Light, Pottinger's Reel, The Grocer. Those are all Tom Anderson tunes we've had. Jacqueline's Waltz. So lots of good tunes by Tom. And what was I going to say? One more thing. Oh, yeah. You can find Shetland tunes in quite a few of the Fiddle Club books. But, for example, Book 1, Book 4, Book 7, and more recently in 24 and 22, I think, is where the Willie Hunter and Ronnie Cooper. Anyway, and a number of them in between. The other tunes on the page 32, we already did Taste de Green, but this next one is Burra Boats. I was tempted to do a complete session, a workshop on the composer of this tune. So just like in recent years, we've done music by Ronnie Cooper, the pianist, and music by Willie Hunter, the Shetland fiddler. I also got a book of tunes by Gideon Stove, and there's a picture of him. And it's quite a big book, lots of tunes in it. So let me tell you just a little bit about him. So Gideon Stove was lived in Lerwick, the capital of Shetland. He was born in 1874, and in his day, he was really well known and considered, kind of a prime Shetland fiddler. He was completely self-taught. His profession was a baker. Born in 1874. In 1909, he gave up his profession as a baker in order to be a full-time musician. And one of the things he did was play a lot for dancing, and the other thing that he did was to play, to give lessons to children for over 4 decades. And so back in that day, a lot of the entertainment was from gatherings with dancing. And so, all you needed was a fiddler who could play for dancing, and this was Gideon Stove. So the tune that I picked is called Burra Boats. He wrote all kinds of tunes, but quite a few of them are in a more traditional style. So let me find a picture of Burra. Oh, yeah. Here we go. So there are the sheep. And Burra is actually 2 islands. There's an East Burra and a West Burra. They're off the coast of mainland, off the west coast of mainland. And let me find that map again. In the more or less the south. So there's the southern part of the mainland island, and this is Burra East and Burra West. And they're connected via causeway and bridge to the mainland. So you can drive there now. In the old days, all these out islands of Shetland would have been connected only by sea. So be taking a boat. This is why they did not haul around a piano to the dances on the other islands. That explains a whole lot about why the tradition is fiddle accompanied by fiddle. It's a lot easier to put your fiddle in a boat than a piano or something big. So let me play the Burra Boats. So Gideon Stove has no bowings marked in the book. But one of the things that I like to do is where it fits, I do some up bow slurs in the B part. At the beginning of the bar, I play down and then 3 up. Next bar, same pattern. So once you establish that pattern, you can use it again. In the first part, the A part, where it fits, I play up bow 2 note slur. Let's see. Yeah, so I think I'm sometimes hooking in the prior note. So I think I do that fairly often in this tune. All right, let's play it slowly and then quicker. That's Burra Boats. Burra Boats. All right, next up, I have a tune by a very well-known Shetland composer because he has one tune that is a mega hit that's been played everywhere. And that man is Ian Burns, and the tune is Spoodaskary. So Spoodaskary is a place, and he explains exactly what it is. So here's Ian Burns, the composer of Spoodaskary. And it says, the skerry can be seen at the left-hand side of the picture. And the house, which is where his aunt lived, is on the right side. So do you see the skerry? It's the rocks that the waves are splashing off of. That is what a skerry is. Skerry. And so there's no water spout. It's just spray from the waves when they splash high. And that's Spoodaskary. So you'll see this tune of his most famous tune, listed in various books as being traditional from the old days when they used, no, it's been written by this man. He was, right, I already showed you his picture, right. And that's the same area of Shetland. I'm not sure if the Spoodaskary itself is visible, but in that picture or not. But he wrote other tunes. There's this whole book of them. So you can play tunes besides just Spoodaskary. And so the one that I picked is a jig because all these others are reels or at least in four. And so Bert Ferguson is the name of the tune. And I have found out that that's the name of his wife's uncle, was Bert Ferguson. And by the way, Ian Burns lived from 1932 to 1995. Okay, so from its original source in this book, it's really clear that he intends this jig to be played dotted throughout, always. Let me find it. There it is. Okay, Bert Ferguson. So in its original form, you can see that every triplet has a dot and a flag. And so sometimes it's reversed and it's da-dum-da instead of da-ba-da, but that rhythm is present throughout. It's customary in a lot of Scottish sheet music writing to not put in all the dots because it's assumed that if you know Scottish style, particularly Scottish country dance style, that you're going to put those dots in. And they kind of clutter up the music. The only time that we insist on putting the dots in is when it's part of a, for example, 6/8 pipe march where the pointing is very much necessary to get the right feel for the tune. So it's just assumed that you're going to dot everything in here that's not dotted. Okay, let's play it slowly. Ferguson. Bert Ferguson by Ian Burns. All right. So another tune from Delting, right in the middle of the northern neck of mainland Shetland, is our. I was going to skip right over, and I can't possibly skip this one. The tune is called Hammer or de Tang. And boy, this is one of those things where the explanation doesn't help you without further explanation. Because here's where it says about hammer or de Tang in the source. It says, hammer or de Tang, a fisherman's mead, M-E-I-D, from the days of hand line or line fishing. So what is a mead? Well, that's a Shetland dialect word itself. It reminds me of a tune we had a few years back where the name of the tune was Makakishi Needle Die, and the explanation was, this means Makakishi Needle Granddad. So it explained one word, die, meaning granddad, but it doesn't explain what is a kishi and why does a kishi need a needle. And so, you had to look further to discover that a kishi is a woven basket that's actually kind of bundles of reeds and stuff sewn together with line. So you do need a needle to make this kind of basket. Anyway, hammer or de Tang, a mead, a fisherman's mead, is a location where you are more likely to find fish, like because there's a shoal in the water, or there's a hole, deep hole where the fish like to hide. So it's a place where you're more likely to find the fish. Now you can't see through the murky waters, so you're not going to be like, oh yeah, there are the fish right down there, I see them. No, you find this location by using landmarks that you can sight on from the islands. And so where you see this way and this that way, and where that intersects, well, okay, that's the spot in the water where the fish like to be. And so hammer or de Tang, I don't know what the hammer is or the tang, but orda is over the. So if you see this hammer and the tang lining up, maybe they're rock formations or something, or one of them's a rock and the other is a building or something like that. When you see them lined up properly, then it's like, okay, that's the spot where you're going to find that the fish like to hide. So let me play the tune for you. So ending unresolved. All right, let's play it slower and then faster. great. Well, thanks for those ideas on what the tang and the hammer are, and probably rocks and hard places. Okay. One more tune on this page, Blind Monzi, and this is another tune that is named for a musician. And this musician's from the Delting area. Blind Monzi was a famous fiddler from the Delting area. So he was known to play this tune, but it may have been composed by James Godey. Now, I don't know if James Godey is related to or perhaps the same as Jack Godey, who is mentioned by Tom Anderson in another Shetland tune story. The tune is called Jack Broke the Prison Door, and it's by Jack Godey. And there's a story about how Jack was just making trouble one night in town. He'd had a little too much to drink, and so they put him in the lockup for his own safety and then let him out once he'd sobered up. But according to Jack himself, the story was that he broke out of prison. So it's called Jack Broke the Prison Door. The truth is they just waited for him to sober up and then they let him go. But was that the same as the James Godey who played this tune and may have composed it for Blind Monzi? I can't tell you that. I don't know the answer. But here is the tune. Let me play it for you. So just like the Black Hat, this is a tune written for a particular fiddler. I did that wrong. So I'm going to leave out some of those 3-up slurs because they're confusing me. This one had an error in its original printing, which is there's supposed to be 2 parts with repeats, and I left out the repeats in the original version. It's corrected in the update, which may be posted by now. Okay. the last tune that we haven't done yet is the polka from Jean Paul. And this is from the book that I showed you before, Geas and A. And it says Jean Paul was from Was. In this book, it's spelled W-A-A-S. The way it's spelled on the map is walls. Let me see if I've got a picture here of walls. Yes, here's a picture of walls. So it's spelled W-A-L-L-S, and in Shetland, they pronounce it Was. So this lady, Jean Pohl, was a fiddler who lived there. She played a couple of polkas, and there's a couple of them with no title other than Polka from Jean Pohl. And then she played them to Jimmy Mann, another fiddler from Skeld, who passed them on to Tom Anderson. And that's how they ended up in his book. Now, this polka sounds quite Scandinavian to me. I do not have enough in-depth knowledge of all kinds of Scandinavian tunes. I played a bunch of them, but I've not done a deep dive in, so I can't tell you if there's a parallel tune in the Scandinavian tradition. But let me play this tune for you, and it certainly has some characteristics that sound quite Scandinavian to me. Okay. All right, so let me play it slower. Well, yeah, if you have any notion about any tune connected with that, so we maybe come up with a title or connect it with another tradition, then um, I would be interested to know. And if you don't come back with it by the time I end this live stream, then just send it to info at Potomac Valley Scottish Fiddle.org. I think, or it might be info at PVSFC.org. Okay, a couple of announcements about Fiddle Club upcoming events. On May 24th, there's going to be a Fiddle Club dance party in Maryland, Glen Echo, Maryland, at the Glen Echo Town Hall. So if you're in the Mid-Atlantic area and you want to go to a dance, that's great. Come along, bring your friends, come dance. If you want to come but you don't want to dance, well, we could definitely use some volunteers to help us set up, clean up, take tickets, bring refreshments, set out the refreshments, things like that. And if you want to play for this dance, you'll need to come to some rehearsals. There's a rehearsal schedule that's been sent to members. And if you come to those rehearsals, you can play in the dance band. It's really rewarding. And it's also not so stressful. There's safety in numbers. So even if you can't play all the tunes or you don't want to play all the tunes, somebody else will. And we'll get them all covered one way or another with our larger group. Sometimes the musicians outnumber the dancers, and it's really great when we have a big band. So look in your Potomac Valley Scottish Fiddle Club emailings and find out if you can make it to some of those rehearsals. The music is available for download at the Potomac Valley Scottish Fiddle Club website if you want to play for the dance. Also, farther along, coming up at the end of the summer, that it's Labor Day weekend, which this year means that it's going to be August 30th and 31st, will be the Virginia Scottish Games, which is our big festival that we play at locally. And they will be having the Fiddle Club perform. There will also be fiddle things happening throughout the entire weekend of Saturday and Sunday at the very end of August there. And so Fiddle Club will be performing. There'll be other fiddle performing groups. There will be a fiddle workshop on Sunday. And also there will be a Scottish fiddling competition. So come along. There's always lots of fun, and we can use volunteers for that as well to let other people know about our group and that we have this series of workshops, both online for those who are far away and also in person for those who are in this Mid-Atlantic area. It's been a great fun playing with you this time. We'll be going into our summer break, but I just told you we've got a dance, we've got a festival, and we'll be getting together in July to go over festival music. And I will be putting up play-along videos of the festival sets as well sometime in the summer. And so I'll see you around. It's been a real pleasure. Have fun with these tunes from Shetland. And thanks again to Tom Anderson, the big collector and reviver of Shetland fiddle music. Has given us a treasure trove of lots of interesting stuff to learn. So thank you. See you next time.